Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am back, your host, Joe Zollo. 3 more incredibly juggernauts of teams, Patriots, Chargers, Giants. Oh boy, the offense will be flowing for half of one team for 3 games of the season. It is not the prettiest of offensive weapons in this show, ladies and gentlemen. I think maybe the highest ADP is somewhere in the 50s for anybody that's going to even matter on any of these teams. We're going to try and find some hidden gems, and we have Andrew Cooper from Fantasy Alarm to join us along the journey. Let's get into it. Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zollo. Top left, Josh. Bottom right, Ryan. Hello, gents. Thank you for taking the 3 shittiest teams out of the way last week. I appreciate that. And for moving my Patriots to this week, because I was not, again, for like the 3rd straight year, missing the Patriots Look Aside preview. And thank God we have another Patriots fan to sulk in the misery. Coop, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm glad you guys were able to still dig out one more bad team to be worse than the Patriots, so they aren't the worst team on the show.
There you go.
So, welcome. Really great job by you guys.
Not the worst team by a long shot, which is saying a lot for the New York Giants.
I was just going to say about the other team.
Yeah, about the other team. Before we dive into anything, NFL news, one thing happened. Nico Collins signed a 3-year, $72 million extension with the Houston Texans. Good, bad, how do we feel? Go ahead, Coop.
I'll tell you what. One thing it did, it really cemented that number for the Bengals and T. Higgins, right? Because Michael Pittman got franchise tagged, and then they gave him 3 years, $70 million, right? With $40 million guaranteed. The Texans looked at that and said, hey, we got a big split end too. That number sounds about right. 3 years, $70 million. We'll do that too. So now if you're T. Higgins and your agent, there's no possible way you can take less than that, right? I mean, like the number is set. And for both sides, I mean, it's going to be tough for him to get more than that now too, right? Because those guys basically do the same thing he does. So, and I think if you're a Bengals fan, now you're saying, all right, 3 years, $70 million, do it. Let's go. Let's get that over with. I'm not sure if they can afford it or Chase is not showing up to camp either, but that's the number now, right?
I don't think Cincinnati can afford it. So
if I'm T. Higgins, I'm literally just going to the Bengals and be like, look, don't franchise me next year and I'll play this year, because he clearly wants to chase the bag and give him the chance, I guess. But you can't, if he holds out any time into the summer, a guy who already has injury history, and I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but if you follow any of these Twitter docs, they'll tell you the longer these guys hold out, the more likely they are to get hurt. And that's just going to hurt him even worse in the long run.
Now, do you guys know which team currently has the most available cap space that could maybe trade for and sign a guy like T. Higgins?
If you give me 10 seconds, I can know that.
Because I know it.
Bengals had the most cap space, to be honest.
Patriots.
I would say I weirdly feel like it's the Patriots.
The Patriots. It's the 4 of us collectively, today New England Patriots have the most available.
That's gross. Don't ever loop me into that conversation ever again.
You're in, dude. Today on this show, it is the Patriots show. So you are in. And yes, the Patriots of all the teams, I mean, they were trying to get Calvin Ridley. Bob Kraft himself said that he not only tried to get Calvin Ridley, but they were willing to offer enough money above what the Titans paid to cover the difference in taxes. So he went all in on that.
It's so cute that you believe that Robert Kraft actually wanted to do that.
But the fact of the matter is that they talked about it, they considered it, right? So if that's a possibility, all sorts of T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk's are possible.
To the Nico Collins thing, it speaks a lot to Nico Collins, in my opinion, because they bring in Stephon Diggs and immediately say, you know what, bro, we want you for 1 year. Like, we want you for 1 year. And then the next step is to re-up Nico Collins. And so I think it's interesting that they're doing this in this succession. Like, they've made it they're ring chasing this year with the Stephon Diggs move, but Nico Collins and Tank Dell are the future. So for those dynasty managers that were sweating out there, I think this is huge, like just absolutely huge, because you have CJ Stroud and now you have Nico Collins and Tank Dell locked in for the next 3 seasons, because Dell should be on a 4-year deal based on where he was.
Yeah. I don't know that it's so much that they're just saying, Stephon Diggs, we only want you for 1 year. I think it was just that the way that his contract was structured with all of the guaranteed money basically gone, they just sort of restructured it so that he had the opportunity to re-up for next year, come in to this team and say, all right, what do you still have left in the tank? Because of his late season slide, I think there's plenty of people that are now doubting how much he has.
I'm just saying, Stephon Diggs is on a prove-it deal. Nico Collins isn't.
Nico's locked in. And that's the interesting the most interesting thing for redraft for that team, in my opinion, is that they use a fullback, right? There's the same scheme. Bobby Slowick brought in the same scheme that the 49ers use, the same ones the Dolphins use. And when you use that fullback, 30% of the snaps is what Andrew Beck was playing. Ben Skowronek plays the fullback too. Somebody's got to come out of the game. It's not the tight end. It's not the running back. Is it Tank Dell? Is Tank Dell about to play a partial snap share, or maybe Stephon Diggs ends up on the partial snap share? I think you give Nico Collins 3 years, $70 million. That tells you he's their full-time split end. Right?
Well, I think he only played like 12% inside last year anyway. Like he's a boundary X. Like,
exactly.
That's what he plays.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's locked into that. So it's going to be one of those guys is going to be, is going to have their snap share capped. No team plays 11 personnel 100% of the time, not even 90% of the time. So there's always somebody that comes out for 2 wide receiver sets. But when you use the fullback, it gets scary. I mean, look at those two teams, the Dolphins, the 49ers, the Ravens. They've never had a wide receiver 3. And, we need every one of those snaps for upside.
Yep. That's a really good point.
So I don't know why we're talking about the Texans.
I was going to say,
let's talk about cool teams. Let's just talk about 2 cool teams. All right, let's talk about the Packers.
Let's go into the New England Patriots. Last year, 4-13, new head coach, new offensive coordinator. Gerard Mayo, head coach. Alex Van Pelt coming over from Cleveland. Or he was just pretty much Stefanski's bitch. So that's great. I'm glad we have that. Projected starting offense. We don't know who the quarterback will be week 1, but at some point it will be Drake May. And he's being drafted like that. Quarterback 22. Brissett is his presumed backup. Brissett could be the guy that starts maybe the first few weeks just to get Drake May a little more comfortable in that offense. RB1, Ramondre Stevenson, bringing in the RB2, Antonio Gibson from the Commanders over the offseason. The vaunted Patriots wide receiver room. It is insane to me how this is listed. It is beyond me.
I did it strictly off of the underdog ADP because I'm looking at this and I'm like, this does not make any sense in how they're being drafted.
Zero sense. Demario Douglas, wide receiver 74. Nice. Jalen Polk, the first receiver they took off the board in the second round. Wide receiver 75. Javon Baker, wide receiver 81. The true wide receiver 1, Kendrick Bourne, at wide receiver 97. And then KJ Osborne coming over from Minnesota, wide receiver 100. 2 tight ends, Hunter Henry and Jaheim Bell. Both are actually everybody's free. There's not even the only guy that's not free is Ramondre Stevenson, essentially. Everybody else is free on this roster currently. And we have 3 guys I want to talk about, and I think an interesting one, and I feel like I know why after listening to last week's show. Antonio Gibson. I don't know who bolded him on the show sheet here, but I had a feeling it was Ryan, and he's currently RB50. Again, free. Now, coming from Cleveland, I believe it was mentioned multiple times last week, they like a 2 running back system, don't they, Ryan?
They certainly do. We've seen it for years. We saw it last year, which was last year he was with Cleveland, where they lose Nick Chubb, and all of a sudden it's Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt. The most interesting thing when I was editing Matt Records' article about Antonio Gibson, the most interesting thing was Matt Record said, Antonio Gibson is not Ezekiel Elliott, which is true. But did you know they are the exact same height and weight?
Wow.
I would have never expected you have this picture of what Zeke is in your head, and that is not what you picture Antonio Gibson.
I think if Antonio Gibson needs a visor. I think that
that's all it is.
Oh,
visor, crop top shirt.
I was gonna say it's the
think we
crop
could
top
get
for me.
Visor, skill, hands,
skill would be
non-fumble issues. Yeah, a few different things, but he'll be fine.
10,000 career rushing yards.
Yeah.
But if Ramondre Stevenson is to play the lead role in this offense, the Nick Chubb role in this offense, that's a lot of meat on the bone for Antonio Gibson, who is bigger than you think he is. And one of the interesting things you would see from Cleveland, at least in the early years of Kareem Hunt, is Chubb worked his ass off between the 20s and then would get taken out. And that could be a killer for Ramondre Stevenson's fantasy value.
We've seen Antonio Gibson be productive in the red zone too. So, I mean, I don't think that's a crazy thing, especially when you're looking at fantasy upside there at RB 50. But just looking at Kareem Hunt's averages in this Cleveland style system, 2.92 targets per game, 2.3 receptions per game, 9 rush attempts per game, 52.3 total yards per game, and 32 touchdowns in 5 years. That's a flex back, and I'm 100% fine with that at RB 50 prices.
100%.
Yeah, you can sneak him in there. I guess the concern side would be if Drake May gets in there, if and when he gets in there, he is more mobile.
A good point
than people give him credit for, and that you lose a lot of those. So there's obviously two kinds of passes to running backs, right? There's designed ones, which are screens, Texas routes, things like that, where it's like they're getting the ball. And then there's the checkdowns, and you lose that. You lose that at times with a mobile quarterback. We've seen it with Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson.
Even Josh Allen too.
Even Josh Allen, but Josh Allen does it a little more. I've noticed than some of these other guys. So maybe if he does play the Josh Allen style they say he plays, maybe we'll be all right there. And then the other thing is that people have come to me and pointing out the money for Antonio Gibson and saying, oh yeah, he's got a lot of money. 3-year deal. They seem to really like him. But I think part of that money is allocated towards the fact that there's a brand new kickoff that they're doing this year. And Antonio Gibson is a literal perfect scheme fit, right? Like if you could pick a guy, like a stocky guy that knows how to return kicks and also is a converted wide receiver that has good vision, if you have a league that also has points for kick returns, I think Antonio Gibson in that format is fantastic. If you play what's that, draft with giants, he's a draft with giants cheat code probably, but we'll have to see. I think they're gonna make him earn his money. So I think he's gonna do kicks. I think he can return punts, and I think he's definitely gonna work in on some pass downs, but we'll have to see what kind of offense this is.
It's going to be a bad one. That's all I know. That's all I know from this. And at the cornerstone getting re-signed was Hunter Henry, because with all the amount of money in the world to spend in free agency, we decided, who we really need to bring back? Hunter Henry. We really need to bring him back, scoring 4 of his 6 touchdowns in 2 games this year. Coop, you highlighted Hunter Henry, and I hope you have good things to say, and I hope I'm exuberant and I'm excited after you bring up your points, but I don't think I will be. But I want you to pitch me on him.
Let's cheer you up, dude. This shout out Ben Coates. See the Ben Coates jersey behind you. Patriots tight end talk starts now. Here we go. So
we're reincarnating Ben Coates.
Let's do it, dude.
Okay.
So here's the thing. The one thing Hunter Henry doesn't have is speed.
Skill.
Right. Skill. We'll get
speed.
Into that.
Athleticism.
It's like on Space Jam when he's like, I may not be tall, but I'm slow. Right? Hunter Henry
is tall.
Injuries.
Hunter Henry falls in the same category as Zach Ertz, where he has good hands. He can win in man-to-man. He can win in the red zone because of that, but he's not particularly fast. So he needs to get peppered with targets to have upside in fantasy football. So during this whole period, he's still been good versus man-to-man statistically. He's been good in the red zone. That's why he can have these games with multiple touchdowns. Like the game versus the Vikings, a couple years ago, where he should have had 3. But the big thing that's been missing for him, as I kind of alluded to, is the plays that are automatic, right? Like screens, for instance. Venture to guess how many tight end screens, and this is not just for Hunter Henry, for Mike Gesicki, for everybody, how many tight end screens the Patriots called last year? Just a quick guess. If you could throw a number out there.
2.
Not enough.
Less than 2.
What?
Zero.
You want to know why? You want to know why? Because they called five.
Not enough. I was right.
They called 5 double screens every fucking game. That's why they got 0
right.
tight end screens.
They ran a ridiculous number of wide receiver screens, which a lot of the top teams did do, but they ran 0 tight end screens. Now, the guy coming over with the playbook, Alex Van Pelt, the Browns ran the second most tight end screens last year. In fact, David Njoku's 20 tight end screens was second only to our Lord and Savior and Angel Evan Ingram's 21 screens. So if you take Hunter Henry and you have his ability versus man-to-man, and you sprinkle a couple of extra screens in there, right? And then you also throw in the fact that as Joe ran through there, none of these wide receivers are being drafted in the top 70 on sites like Underdog. He has a real possibility to be a top 2 target on the team, a team where the top target last year was Ezekiel Elliott with 65, right? So it's entirely possible that Hunter Henry comes out and does have a better year than he had last year. And if you throw some more freebies on top of his few touchdowns, I mean, now you got a little tight end stew going. So there's a Hunter Henry speech. Let's get Hunter in the hen house this year.
All I heard was David Njoku, and all credibility went out the window. We're comparing Hunter Henry to David Njoku.
I mean, David Njoku himself didn't break out until last year. I mean, sometimes it takes a little time for the big dogs. I mean, Gary Barnidge didn't break out until he was 29. Delaney Walker had his best season at 30 years old after being behind Vernon Davis this whole time. I think maybe we just needed a couple of screens for the big lad. And, if things don't pan out, we've got the screen master from college, Gene Bell, right behind him. So you go scoop him off waivers, no big deal.
I love the optimism. I have I
think Faith in the chat said, Joe, the pessimistic Pats fan, Coop, the optimistic Pats fan. It's the Patriots odd couple.
Yeah. So I just here's my issue. Hunter Henry has the speed of a canoe, so it doesn't help him.
4.74.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, so that's the same speed as Zach Ertz, though. I mean, like we've seen it.
Let's be clear. 4.74 was when he came out.
He's not running a 4.74 right now.
I've been over to Gillette Stadium. It's right down the street, dude. They got the TB12 method going on over
there. The
TB12
method is bankrupt. What do you mean? All of Tom Brady's business ventures are bankrupt. He got scammed by crypto.
Alex Guerrero's doing great, dude.
He's not. No,
he's doing fantastic. Dude.
Incorrect.
I think he's drinking more water now that he's here, right? You know what I mean? There's no like Josh.
Incorrect. All of Tom Brady's business ventures have gone down the toilet.
Rich. Hunter Henry's rich. So he's a lot more guaranteed money from New England now.
Hunter Henry's rich because Bill Belichick just paid him whatever he wanted.
And here's the thing, people. When you're spending up on a tight end, right? You're drafting the Travis Kelce's of the world and the Mark Andrews. You're asking yourself why. You're saying why. And Travis
I ask myself why we have him on the roster every single day.
Travis Kelce's not that fast himself. And you say, why am I spending up on this guy? Later on in your drafts, you ask yourself, why not? You say, why exactly? Why? Like when you get down all the way down in the dredges where Hunter Henry's been cast off to the side, you ask yourself, why can't this guy be a top 2 target on the team, Joe? And unless you are just like the biggest Pop Douglas fan that we've seen, or I mean, it sounds like you do enjoy yourself a good Kendrick Bourne. I mean, why can't he be one of the top 2 targets on the team, Mr. Hunter Henry? It's
like being the tallest midget. It's not an accomplishment. It's not an accomplishment to be second in targets on this team. Second in targets could be 70.
70 would do it. Where he's going in on Underdog, I think 70 would do it. All you need is 90 targets. Every top 5 tight end, 20 straight years has had either 90 targets or 10 touchdowns. All you need in this world is 90 targets.
Skill.
To Coop's point,
though. He's got the skill, dude. I've seen it.
Let's rewind to Underdog. Henry did all of his work in 4 games last year, and you had no idea when you were going to start him. So if you can take
every top 12 tight end not named like Kelsey, Andrews, Laporta, like
him more so.
But what I'm getting at is 2
games of 2 touchdowns. And
that is the perfect best ball tight end.
He's perfect angel.
I agree. Perfect angel for best.
In fairness, Hunter Henry has 1 career season over 90 targets. So there's that.
He
And
also
it's
had
time.
two.
It's time. We've
He's
waited
due.
this long. Alex Van Pelt, perfect angel.
He had 2 of his touchdowns in a Thursday night football game against the Steelers.
You get all them points and you're an underdog. You get all them points, dude. All those tasty points. And you
Listen.
don't have to worry about the other weeks where the screens might not be flowing. I mean, last year, 0 screens, dude. 0 screens.
But as Joe pointed out, he's free. If you were going, as
Still feels
Coop
like a
pointed
scam.
out, with a non-early tight end best ball build, and he's a perfect 1 of 3 tight end.
I've been doing some where I wait and I don't take a single tight end in the top 15. And I walk out of there with, a little Hunter Henry, a bit of Pat Freiermuth, maybe some Juwan Johnson. You just got to tell yourself.
Freiermuth is going that late?
Tight end 16. Yeah, I just wrote an article
Why?
on Pat Freiermuth over at fantasyalarm.com. Go check that out now. That's free. It's the Muth. It's
Pat Freiermuth is that low?
That's what I'm spraying, dude. You can get these guys. They're all floating around out there, dude. The myth versus the Muth is up on Fantasy Alarm right now. And yes, I will draft Pat Freiermuth over Hunter Henry, but I'm telling you, you start looking at these other guys, and a lot of these other guys are on teams with 2 locked in top 2 targets, sometimes even top 3, right? Like I see people drafting Cole Kmet. You got to be outside of your mind drafting Cole Kmet, where he goes tight end 15, right? Like
Good old
they have
standing O on that one.
They have 3 wide receivers now, and they also brought in Shane Waldron, who rotates the tight ends. And the first thing he did was bring in the pass-catching tight end that he was the tight end coach for the Rams when they drafted Gerald Everett. And he brought him to Seattle. And they're going to rotate these tight ends, and they've got the 3 wide receivers and rookie quarterback. And Cole Kmet goes like 30 picks before Hunter Henry. So, I don't know. I think that the upside's there. But, yeah, you're right. The floor's not there. So you got to be very careful.
I've never heard a guy more passionate about the most irrelevant position in fantasy football, not named the kicker.
We can go deeper, dude. We
haven't
even gotten to the Chargers and Stone Smart yet.
I don't want to. I really don't want to.
We will.
I don't want to. Josh, Kendrick Bourne, I don't know how he's 97. I don't know why he's not being drafted as the number 1 receiver for these Patriots. What do you got?
Really, it boils down to the knee injury. That's the only legitimate reason why I feel like he's being the forgotten guy. I mean, obviously the 2 rookies, you're going to have plenty of dynasty people that are drafting an underdog right now that's inflating their ADP a little bit. And then, of course, the late pop from the aforementioned Pop Douglas. But this is what I find interesting. When you look at the splits between, Demario Douglas and Kendrick Bourne playing together, and then Douglas without Bourne, together, Kendrick Bourne was on pace for 107 targets and 66 receptions. Douglas was on pace for 73 targets and 46 receptions.
Yeah, because Kendrick Bourne's better.
But he plays more of that boundary role, whereas Douglas is not a good boundary guy because he's 5'8". So, and that's what I find really interesting, because this is a scheme that does not work in slot receivers at all. This is a boundary tight end running back. That is who the Cleveland offense throws to. So I feel like that alone is going to minimize the opportunities for Douglas, unless you're telling me that a 5'8", 185-pound wide receiver is going to somehow dominate on the outside. And I just don't think that's going to happen, especially with God knows what at quarterback. So for me, I would much rather, granted, they're all good values at this point. You're talking about wide receiver 74 versus wide receiver 97, right? They're both free. You're probably not drafting either of them anyway, and can pick up any of them between weeks 1 and 4 in the season. But I think the better value is Kendrick Bourne, because I think he's simply the better player. This team is so reminiscent of the Arizona Cardinals from 2023. It's ridiculous. When you look at the stopgap quarterback in the beginning of the season, moving into what is presumably the future quarterback. The only difference is, for the Cardinals, it was Kyler Murray coming back from injury. For the Patriots, it's the future, which is Drake May. But they have stopgaps at wide receiver with a tight end who's likely going to be a focal point in the offense. And, oh, by the way, that offensive scheme is right out of the Browns playbook as well, just like the Patriots. So
how were those Cardinals wide receivers last year in fantasy?
Yeah, they weren't great. But you were paying a heavier price for Hollywood Brown than you are now for Kendrick Bourne. So why pay 25
Hollywood Brown's bad.
spots more
Sorry.
for Pop Douglas when you can just wait on Kendrick Bourne?
Kendrick Bourne was getting Hollywood Brown was getting a lot of targets last year before he got hurt. And I will say with Kendrick Bourne, people worried about the injury. Like that was obviously October when he got hurt, and then they paid him in March. They signed him, and I'm already seeing things that they obviously asked him what his timeline was like, and his answer was that he's going to be the comeback player of the year. So he seems he seems pretty confident. I wonder what the odds are on that one. He seems pretty confident that he's going to be back and ready to rock. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting, man. And what's funny is that one name we haven't mentioned yet is the highest paid wide receiver on the team, Joe.
Juju.
Which is Juju Smith-Schuster.
He's still on the team. I'm not gonna lie, I forgot about him.
Dude, they can't. Dude, they literally would cost
up Juju. Damn,
it would literally cost them money to release him.
I forgot about him.
Yeah.
Is he? He's not. Is he on the team? Is he on the team?
They would have to get rid of him at this stage. They would actually have to probably take one of their picks and package it with Juju, Brock Osweiler style to move him. Like I really, I think it saves them zero money to release Juju.
So standing ovation for myself last year, for calling that bullshit out, and these two dumbasses saying, "Oh, Juju's not that bad." Lick a nut. Seriously,
well, his knee. Knee. What if the knee's right?
I don't like how optimistic you are. Juju Smith-Schuster is
I have him
terrible.
projected for literally 11 targets this year.
Yeah, it turns out that
it's 11 more than he deserves.
Yeah. When everyone's covering Antonio Brown and you're playing with a Hall of Fame quarterback,
makes life a lot easier.
Yeah,
it's way easier to look.
You think?
Yeah.
You think when you're getting the third best guy in the secondary with a Hall of Fame quarterback? Yeah. But speaking of bets, as alluded to by Coop, top 3 favorite bets here, and these are season-long picks. These are just sports books of choice. We have Drake May over 2,650 and a half passing yards. That's minus 112 on FanDuel. And who is taking the over on that? Ryan is taking the over on that. Patriots at Bengals week 1. Okay. How are those odds out? That's insane. How are those odds out?
Go Pats.
I'm going to do a quick disclaimer for Joe. Player props are still absolutely unavailable right now. Drake May is the only existing player prop for the
there's some weird. There's just a few peppered in there for a lot of rookies. Oddly, they have them.
Yes.
I don't know why. I don't know how they know that Ladd McConkey's set to get 775.5 yards already.
Yep,
They got that one. They put a
he's
pin
a
in
dog.
Yeah.
But I imagine, Coop, you have the Patriots +9 in week 1 against the Bengals.
I like to think that we all do.
I mean, I don't hate that line in its current state. I don't hate that line. And then, Josh, you have the Patriots win total under 4.5 wins, and that is +135 on DraftKings. It's -160 for the over.
I just want to throw out that Josh was so optimistic about last week's 3 teams and immediately comes in this week pessimistic as hell.
Yeah.
I think this is I think it's a 5-win team. I still think they beat the Jets twice. I have full confidence they beat the Jets twice because the Jets just shit on themselves.
There's not a lot of wins on that schedule. I was going.
This is the way that I look at this team, right? Jacoby Brissett is a great bridge quarterback. He's a good leader. He's somebody that can keep everything in line. But he's not going to be the reason that this team actually pulls out any wins.
You don't
know
that.
You can win. You can bet $10 to win $1 million that the Patriots go undefeated in the regular season. $10 to win,
and that's crazy. You lose $10 at 4:05 Eastern on week 1. But that's crazy.
Oh yeah.
But leading up to that, you have a screenshot that is going to grab some attention on Twitter, so you're buying the engagement there.
Yeah, million. 1 million. So here's the thing. I'll just jump in on mine real quick. The Patriots, because I know we probably can't talk about Patriots all day today, as much as we would all like to. The Patriots +9. Part of it is that I think Jacoby Brissett will start, and Jacoby Brissett I think is pretty serviceable, and he knows the system from his time with Alex Van Pelt. So I think that if they announce him as a starter, that line might come down a little bit. So I like locking it at +9. We also have some. If you just take the teams completely out of it, when you look at teams that had a spread of 8 or more in week 1, going back to 2003, so 20 years, Those teams are 25-9 in week 1. So spreads of 8 or more, the books have not been good at predicting the week 1 blowouts, right? Those teams oftentimes are covering. Like the Patriots could lose to the Bengals, but not lose by 9. You know what I mean? So for me, I look at it and just say historically, Vegas not good at predicting week 1 blowouts. Plus, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. We don't know what's going on with T. Higgins. We don't know what's going on with Joe Burrow's wrist. You know what I mean? It's early enough that I'll take those points and we'll see what happens as we get closer. But I will say, when I wrote an article on week 1 bets, at the time I wrote the article, the line was 8.5. People are already betting on the Bengals. So I don't know. I think that one's right. I think that Jacoby Brissett and the gang can pull it out. And if Drake May is so good that he starts week 1, well, that's even better.
Heading to the City of Angels, the American Football Conference, Los Angeles Chargers, new head coach, Jim Harbaugh. I'm fairly positive whoever typed this spelled Harbaugh incorrectly. New offense, Greg, isn't it? It's AU. You did OU. Nice. Script writer. New offense, Greg Roman, former OC for the Baltimore Ravens from 2019 to 2022. Chargers were 5-12 last year. Projected starting offense. Nobody's taking Justin Herbert's starting quarterback spot. That one's pretty solidified. He's quarterback 15 currently in ADP on Underdog. Running backs, Gus Edwards. Gus Bus comes over from Baltimore, RB 38. J.K. Dobbins, the walking wine glass, RB 53. And the week 4 starter, Kamani Vidal, is RB 71. Because
the Kamani code.
Yeah, out of Troy. 6th round pick, I believe he was. Wide receivers. Ladd McConkey slotting in as the wide receiver 1 currently in ADP at wide receiver 54. Joshua Palmer, wide receiver 61. Quentin Johnston and Stonehands at 66, excuse me. The next coming of Jerry Rice, his son Brendan, wide receiver 98. And DJ Chark, the deep threat that he is, wide receiver 110. Your tight ends. No Stone Smart, but we have Donald Parham as the number 1 tight end being drafted for this team. It's May, guys.
Being drafted is a stretch. He is the tight end 37.
It's
I don't
May,
know what
guys.
it is about. There's like a Parham cult out there. There's like a secret pocket of Parham.
Listen, I love Donald Parham. He's 6'8" in the NFL. Why is he the first tight end
I don't know, dude.
for this team? Hayden Hurst, tight end 40.
That's the guy.
Sure. And somehow Will Dissly is getting $9 million a year contract in the NFL.
They paid Will Dissly.
He's a blocker. He came out and said that already. He said that Will Dissly says that he works for Gus Edwards. That's what he said. So.
Wow. I'd work for Gus Edwards, so I was getting paid $9 million a year to drop footballs. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Will Dissly, tight end 45.
Like a medical miracle, too. Like, he's had some crazy injuries that Pete Carroll described one as something he's never heard of. That's the kind of injuries this guy has gone through.
You know, I'm happy for him. You know, go him.
Yeah, Rich.
Go Will. Go Will.
He's rich.
All right. Justin Herbert. It feels like a fall from grace to quarterback 15 currently. Raise your hand in the chat if you have him bolded on this list here, because nobody put their name next to it. Of course it was Ryan.
Ryan put an article out, so I figured it was him.
Why would I even guess? Justin Herbert no longer has the best receiver in the NFL, Keenan Allen. He no longer has Mike Williams for 2.5 games. See, he is left with Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer, and I'm ending it there. He is really his weapons have been slashed. Yeah. His offensive line didn't get much better. So what is the bright spot with Justin Herbert here, Ryan? Is there a bright spot?
No, I mean, honestly, his ADP is about where I expected it to be with the QB 15, and it's probably where it's going to stay getting closer to the season. The issue is going to be passing volume. And there's 2 sides to the argument. There's what Greg Roman did in Baltimore, but that was with Lamar Jackson. And you just can't expect that he's going to be like, I'm running my exact offense when he gets here. But if you go back pre-Lamar Jackson, and obviously that's a different time in the NFL. We're talking 2017, 2018 with Joe Flacco. While Roman wasn't the offensive coordinator, he was the offensive assistant coach or whatever. They only upped that to about 35 times per game. Well, we're used to seeing Justin Herbert throwing the ball 40 times per game. Justin Herbert has never finished a season with fewer than 595 attempts on a full season where he wasn't hurt. I think we just need to come to grips with reality that we're probably not seeing top 10 Justin Herbert, at least in year one, because it's not just about Justin Herbert. I love Justin Herbert, and I think he's going to run the ball more this year. It's going to help him. You have a whole new offense and wide receivers that he's not used to throwing to outside of Joshua Palmer. There's going to be a lot of growing pains in this offense in general, and that's another hurdle for Justin Herbert to climb. So I'm actually pleasantly surprised to see him at QB 15. When I originally finished my rankings, he was at 19. I've since become a little bit more optimistic. He moved up to 13. I just don't see him cracking the top 10 this year.
Yeah. I mean, with Herbert, that we're going to learn. This is a player we're going to learn a lot about because we've seen truly great quarterbacks like this guy here throw to whoever, right? Like David Patton and what I'm talking about.
David Gibbons.
David Gibbons. A lot of weird Davids going on over there, right? But we've seen Patrick Mahomes. I know he's had Kelsey, but there's been some pretty rough wide receiver groups over there. Last year, his top wide receiver was a rookie, and his second best pass catching. I mean, the guy that got the second most targets was a guard that plays wide receiver in Justin Watson, and he had like 63 targets. So like we've seen guys succeed. They won the Super Bowl. So we've seen guys succeed without great pass catchers. We're about to learn whether this guy truly is great or not. But it's the scheme that's the problem. Not to mention, we're looking at underdog ADP. And I will say this, if you're trying to win $1 million in Best Ball Mania, you do got to kind of look ahead to some of the matchups. And that Week 17 matchup, the $1 million week, Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman and their, punch you in the face, ground and pound offense are taking the gang up to snowy New England to play a real barn burner for Week 17. I'm not sure
Such
if that.
a good point.
I'm not sure
away.
I'm not sure if that's the matchup that's going to win you $1 million right there, because I think that over under for that game could be like 30, depending on the weather. So I don't know, but I will say this: I personally truly believe that Justin Herbert is a good quarterback. There are certain quarterbacks, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, that I just feel the skill set and the ability is there. Whether the scheme and the situation is going to be there from year to year, we don't know. But I believe in the quarterback. If I was an NFL franchise, I would want him to be my starting quarterback. So from that standpoint, you can still be happy. It's just, throwing a DJ Chark and other DJ Chark, which is Quentin Johnston. It's not. Is
that an insult to DJ Chark?
Or an insult to
or is that a compliment to Quentin Johnston?
Yeah,
I can't tell.
I think it's an insult to everybody.
Okay.
You got DJ Chark and you got QJ Chark, and hopefully Ladd McConkey is the next coming of Julian Edelman. But
I think this is the solace that you can take when trying to predict how Justin Herbert can fare this year without Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. In 10 games over his career where he did not have either of them together in a lineup, he was on pace for 673 attempts, 4,604 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions, 353 fantasy points. He can throw it to anybody. Yeah. Like, if we want to point to Greg Roman's, if we want to point to Greg Roman's scheme, he's basically said it himself. Can you imagine Justin Herbert with a running game? He's not there to fuck with the passing game. He's there to fix the running game. So, I don't think he's going to throw the football 40 times, but I don't think 35 is out of the question.
RPO, Justin Herbert, baby, let's go. 35 is a lot. The team that led the league last year threw 37 times a game.
So speaking of the run game,
probably close to 30.
Yeah. So speaking of the run game, Greg Roman did have
39 attempts per game over his career.
That until Greg Roman shows up, dude. The Ravens averaged 29 last year. So as I'm saying, you got to be real careful.
Lamar can't throw, so that's easy.
The thing with Greg Roman is he doesn't really like dumping it down to the running back. That's the big look at Frank Gore's career, and then look at the 4 years that Greg Roman was calling the plays, and it's crazy. He was averaging like 60 receptions a year, and then it dropped to 15 for those 4 years.
So Greg Roman had J.K. Dobbins for like 7 snaps in like one season. and raise the roof who put J.K. Dobbins here again because they didn't put the names. Beautiful. I love that. I love that audio.
I was putting the names in there, but no one else had the names, so I actually took the name out. I was like, "This is how they do it."
Coop, you
I
would
was
have
like,
been
they have some sort of
you would have been the A student of the class. Okay, you would have been the A student of the
Well, I
class.
took it out. I was like, nobody's. Well, you know what happened is I got tricked. It's like when you're in school and it's like not cool to be smart. All the cool kids were not putting it there, so I was just kind of like,
If you think these two jamokes are the cool kids in school,
I had to sandbag my grades on this test because I just wanted to be like the other guys.
I think that legal weed in Massachusetts might be getting to you a little bit if you think these two are the cool kids in school.
I think you guys are cool, man.
That's great. I haven't known a cool kid to have a gray black beard.
It's a
in
strong
my
beard,
house.
dude.
Jack Black, you
Jack
bastard.
Black doesn't get any cooler.
I don't know if Jack Black was the cool kid in high school. I think he was the class clown in high school.
We'll
He's
take
cool
it
now.
He's cool now. He's cool now. Sure. Yeah, he's awesome now.
I didn't have a gray black beard when I was in high school, you dickhead.
I mean,
Listen, I don't know. We don't
I don't know
know.
what's- You're messing the timeline up.
I'm not messing anything up. You keep talking.
stamp that.
J.K. Dobbins. You might want to update the timestamp on him, Josh. J.K. Dobbins, RB 53. Coop, I imagine you like him at RB 53 because despite maybe any amount of burst he ever had being gone, there's still some skill left in there, and he's, again, pretty much free at this point at RB 53.
Yeah, and there's not. I mean, again, yeah, 53 is not. Imagine if I picked RB 53 to bash him, to be like, yeah, it's not worth that.
Fuck him up, Coop. Get him. Get him.
He's RB 53.
Get his ass.
High. We got to move him down. No, I think that, and again, perhaps the biggest if. Just imagine the biggest if you could picture, right? If J.K. Dobbins is healthy, right? Yeah,
okay.
There
I'm imagining it.
You've got
gone.
a team.
It's gone. You waited too long.
You've got a team. If J.K. Dobbins is healthy, you've got a team here who is intimately familiar with him and his health, right? Like this isn't like some other team saying, oh, "Okay, we don't know anything about this guy, but we know that a couple of years ago he had a really good breakaway run rate, and we're just going to bring him in and kick the tires." This is the guy that coached him previously. They obviously have they have access to the medicals. They know what's going on with him. They brought him in, right? They brought him in, and then they didn't go crazy adding other players. It's Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins and Kamani Vidal, right? So for me, if he gets back to healthy and the Achilles tendon surgeries and stuff, they've gotten better throughout the years. If he comes back, I mean, right now, two teams are going to go into the season with quarterbacks coming off Achilles surgery. You know what I mean? That's the most important position out there. So J.K. Dobbins, if he comes back and he's anything like his former self, it's perfect for this format that the ADP is based on, which is best ball. This guy can break off big runs. He was, showed flashes last year before he got hurt again. So if he comes in behind, and again, he doesn't need to be incredible if the scheme works the way that they want it to. They brought in the fullback, Ben Mason. They're trying to tear your face off. They drafted Joe Alt at 6 overall. They've been the previous GM, now GM for the Raiders, he spent a bunch of picks on offensive line the past few years. So this team is loaded up on the O-line, and they want to run the ball. If he's the starting back for this team at RB 53, that's going to be a value. Blake Corum scored 58 touchdowns for Jim Harbaugh when he was at Michigan.
Kamani Vidal is going to have those 58 touchdowns.
I love the idea. I just want to throw out there for Kamani Vidal and a bunch of these guys. Like you go through, Jim Harbaugh just came over from college where he was deep in the recruiting process. So in your dynasty leagues, if the people that do like the 6, 7, 8 round dynasty drafts, start looking at the undrafted free agents that this team brought in. Like the 10 guys named Johnson they brought in. Jalen Johnson and Cornelius Johnson and another one.
Quentin Johnston.
Jalen Johnson, Quentin Johnson. They got all sorts of Johnsons. I'm telling you, like, they got a guy named Corn Johnson. If you have one of those crazy leagues with like 40 roster spots and everyone's throwing whoever at the end of their bench, you got to throw Corn Johnson. But honestly, Leon Johnson at Oklahoma State's the one I like a little better. But
There's too many Johnsons. I'm lost.
If anyone is going to be to have intricate knowledge of these late round picks and undrafted free agents, it's going to be the guy that just came from that atmosphere. So
it's a good point.
End of rant. I do like Kamani Vidal. I do like J.K. Dobbins. I'm not really drafting Gus Edwards.
My biggest concern with Dobbins, and again, I do want to see where Achilles surgery has ended up.
You have a bigger concern than the Achilles?
Well, no, it's the Achilles, but it's the running back position is my concern with the Achilles, because most of the guys we've seen, and really the only one we've seen truly come back from it is Deontay Foreman, and it took him 3 years to look remotely like himself. Marlon Mack, it was a career ender. Now, Jonathan Taylor had a lot to do with that, but it was a career ender basically. And you know, we still haven't really seen Cam Akers make it. It's now that was static with the Rams and everything else that's going on there. So he could be the next tail. It's year one of J.K. Dobbins for me. Now, again, what do you have to lose at his price if he hits, which is exactly how Andrew ended his article today, Andrew Elmquist with us, and how Andrew Cooper was talking about if he hits, you paid nothing and it worked out real well. But Achilles injuries and running backs for me, not happening.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is the sample size isn't huge. And I'll tell you, there's a pretty big sample size of basketball players that have come back. And you look at like Kevin Durant, if Kevin Durant can come back to play basketball, then then you can play football. That's my thought process on it. But you're right. The sample size is not big and it's also not good.
From the running back to the receiver position, one of the few, pretty much the only returner that could catch footballs from Justin Herbert, because Quentin Johnston dropped all of them, Josh Palmer. I'm shocked it was Josh that highlighted this guy, because I know in my heart of hearts he's going to talk shit about him, but how can you talk shit about a guy wide receiver 61?
Nope, I'm not talking shit about him. I'm praising him. He should be going way ahead of Ladd McConkey.
Good.
Way ahead of
let's
Ladd
pump
McConkey.
the brakes there, but I agree.
McConkey's best season was 762 receiving yards.
You're a McConkey hater. Go away.
No, it's not even that I'm a hater. I just think he's overpriced. I have a couple shares of him in dynasty leagues. I have zero issue with him. I just don't he's just not big enough, in my opinion, to be what Devonta Smith is, which is the outlier of a skinny guy at wide receiver on the outside. I just don't see it. But I'm willing to bet on it from a patience perspective. But this year, with the familiarity of Herbert and a new system, give me all the Josh Palmer. He's played 11 games over the last 3 seasons without Allen and or Mike Williams. He's been on pace for 130 targets and 83 receptions. That has the earmark of a wide receiver 1. We've seen wide receivers, tight ends in a Greg Roman system top 130 targets. It is very much in the realm of possibility that Josh Palmer can be a top 24 wide receiver, even with a lower passing volume. I don't think there's going to be a ton of touchdowns for him. He's never top 5. But again, looking at the increased target share, that then increases the likelihood that touchdowns can find him. And as the one reliable option with familiarity with his existing quarterback, give me that at wide receiver 61 prices all day.
I didn't have Josh talking positively about Josh Palmer on my 2024.
Josh has got to stick together.
But you've said nothing but just bad things about him the last few. You have not liked Josh Palmer. Every time I bring him up, you're like,
he doesn't.
Oh, he's the third receiver in a bad offense.
We don't hate players. We don't hate, except for maybe that players. Chiefs. Maybe that Chiefs guy that just left his dogs in the thing.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
How about
that guy? That guy we don't like, but we hate ADPs, right? So you just said, maybe if you don't love the player, wide receiver 61 though, you got to take a couple.
Yeah, that's 10th round in underdog. I'll be beginning of the 11th round. Really, basically, he's 124. It's looking like right now. Josh Palmer will be on every damn one of my best ball teams.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you could even reach for him 2 rounds before that, and I don't think anybody would shame you for it, in all honesty. I mean, again, without those 2, he's averaging 5 catches for 60 yards. You tack on a touchdown here and there, that's an easy wide receiver 2 in fantasy football.
We can tell that Toronto Dave isn't in the chat anymore because we didn't get a shout-out to the Toronto area just now for Josh Palmer. Shout-out to the gang.
Is he from Mississauga?
Oh, wait, no, he's not a Toronto guy. He's a Nebraska guy.
You know what? Honestly, they're pretty much the same, Toronto and Nebraska, when you think about it.
They're about the same. Sorry, that's my fault. We didn't get a Josh Palmer corn cob. No, that's Trey Palmer from Nebraska. Josh Palmer is from Toronto.
He's all over. He's all over. When
I'm
think
trying to figure it out on the fly.
When I think Toronto, Canada, I think Omaha, Nebraska. That's the first thing I think of for its. I think it's
Josh
American.
Palmer.
Josh Palmer is from Trey Palmer is from Nebraska.
Yeah, Toronto and Canada.
Canada.
Yeah.
Well, go Josh. I'm sure he grew up an Argonauts fan. Go him.
I don't mind the pick at all.
Go Argos.
Especially, to your point, this team wants to be physical, right? That could cost Ladd McConkey some snaps early on, especially in his career, if these other guys are just bigger and stronger. We see it all the time. But Rondale Moore, it's the reason Rondale Moore comes out of the game is that he can't block. I've watched him get penalties just trying to hold on to guys, and that's why he comes out. So we'll have to see. But I don't know. I could do it. This team sucks.
This team does suck, but Justin Herbert is 2 of the 3 favorites for best bets of the season that we have. Ryan, I presume you have Justin Herbert over 3,575.5 passing yards.
Yeah, I was looking at all the passing yard totals. They just seemed really soft to me. And even if you hate Justin Herbert, 3,500 yards, 3,600 yards doesn't seem like that tall of a task.
Doesn't seem out of the realm. Coop, I imagine you put last undefeated team at plus 2,000, so you believe the Chargers will outlast every team in the NFL to be the last standing undefeated team.
I really don't like your tone when you're talking about my bet like that.
Well, you know what I immediately thought of? Remember when the Pittsburgh Steelers went 11-0 and then lost 5 of their last 6 and then lost in the first round of the playoffs? That could be this year's Chargers.
Because they weren't that
because
great.
They sucked.
They just had a good matchup.
Yeah.
So the Chargers, okay, let's go through it, right? So Chargers week 1, they get the Raiders at home. Gardner Minshew.
They don't have any home games. Let's get this straight. They don't have any home games.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so Vegas doesn't either. Vegas doesn't have any home games either.
Yeah.
I mean, it's whatever.
But
team
there's
they're
more
playing.
Raiders fans in LA than there are Chargers fans.
Raiders. That's a potential win. Next game is the Panthers.
Okay, that's a win.
Okay, then it's Justin Herbert going up against Russell Wilson and the Steelers. Okay,
is it in Pittsburgh or is it in LA?
It's in
Doesn't
LA.
matter.
It's in LA.
It does because
matter.
Playing in Pittsburgh is worse than playing in LA.
No, it's at Pittsburgh. Okay, so that was at Pittsburgh. Let's moving on. This is the one where we got to hedge our bets, right? Okay, division game, Kansas City. We bet a little bit on Kansas City.
Is it in Kansas City?
It doesn't matter. That's what.
No, if it's in Kansas City, the Chargers play well in Kansas City. Yeah. That's why I ask.
So it just so happens to not be in Kansas City.
Okay, then that's an L. We're 1-3 right now, Coop. We're not looking really good for last undefeated team.
So undefeated right now through 4. Next game, bye week. Can't lose any bye week. So that's a win. Argue with me on that one, Joe.
I can't. I mean, that's a good argument. We're 1-3 going into the bye week.
You're undefeated. You're undefeated through 4 weeks. Bye week, super recharge period. Super early. You want to get that early bye week.
I know we're over, but this is great.
You want to have the very first bye week to recharge, right? So then you go and play Denver, where you can win. You play Arizona, where you can win. You play the Saints, where you can win. All right? Then you probably lose to Cleveland. But at that point, all these other teams are playing each other. It's like the Ravens.
Not the worst.
The Ravens
other than the Kansas City matchup, it's not the worst theory.
And what you do is you bet. If you make it that far undefeated, you bet on Kansas City. And then you get the free week after that with the bye. You just got to get the bye.
The only thing I like in this whole thing is the week 5 is a free week. That's the only thing I like in this whole thing is that is a free week. Because I'm 1-3 going into the bye week. But if you're right and they last to week 5 undefeated, yeah. I mean, the week 5 bye week is smart.
You guys are forgetting the Chargers' luck. That's the whole issue with this entire.
Was that the Chargers or was it Brandon Staley?
It happened long before Brandon Staley got there.
You make your own luck. That's what I always say.
Yes. And Josh has Justin Herbert, 22.5 passing touchdowns. It's even money on the over.
Yeah, it's such an easy one. Like I said, he averages 27, or he's on pace for 27 touchdowns without Allen and Mike Williams. And even with all those guys, 32 touchdowns a game.
They're going to need those touchdowns.
All he's got to do is 23 in a season. Are you kidding me? That's easy money.
Ryan, you're going to need those touchdowns if we're going to start 8-0. I mean, dude, this schedule is actually very easy now that I look at it. Like this team
All right, we're all betting last undefeated team now at plus 2,000.
I might look into it.
It should be more. The fact that they know something. They know something. It should be like plus 5,000. It's practically the chalk.
Where all our money should be.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the Giants.
I was waiting for a pause so I could, and you guys kept talking.
Just shut it down, dude. Just shut it down.
Moving back to the East Coast to talk about not the worst team, or the worst team, sorry, on the East Coast probably this season, the New York Giants. Last year, were 6-11 somehow. I thought they had 2 wins. Legitimately thought they had 2 wins. Brian Daboll, same head coach, same offense. Mike Kafka is the OC. Brian Daboll calls plays. Shocking that no guy outside of Andy Reid, who has been the head coach and called plays on either side of the football, has been successful. Shocking. Okay, 1.
I mean, you could argue Shanahan's been successful. He's been to
Has he?
Super Bowls,
Has he?
He just hasn't won it.
That's weird. He has multiple pairs of pants with shit stains on it from the championship at Super Bowl. So I wouldn't call that great. Projected starting offense. You know it's bad when your starting quarterback is quarterback 31 in ADP. You know it's bad.
So bad.
You know it's bad when his running back is almost outpacing his ADP. That's not good.
I would just like to say people are drafting Bryce Young before Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
There are 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Daniel Jones is being drafted quarterback 31 currently.
The backup QB for the Steelers, assuming it's Justin Fields, gets drafted before Daniel Jones.
Is that the ADP right now? Is that for real?
Yeah. Justin Fields goes like 27.
Yeah, Justin Fields.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I draft Justin Fields before him 100%.
Right.
Your running backs, Devin Singletary, RB 36. The other guys, they're not even getting drafted. There's literally not even an ADP for them. Eric Gray. Remember that guy who was like the 5th string on the practice squad last year and somehow managed his way to RB2? That guy. And then Tyrone Tracy Jr., who we will apparently be talking about in a minute because that's Ryan's guy. I'm so excited to hear about Tyrone Tracy Jr., and I just know it's going to be Devin Singletary's going to get hurt, and who else are they going to fucking go to? That's going to be the analysis.
Yeah,
Malik Neighbors, wide receiver 18, feels aggressive, to say the least. And if you want to know how good the Giants' wide receiver room is or how bad it is, the fall from Neighbors to Wan'Dale Robinson is 76. Wan'Dale Robinson, wide receiver 76. Jalen Hyatt, friend of the show, wide receiver 84. Darius Slayton, who was talking shit and skipping OTAs, wide receiver 95. 4th on the depth chart. Darren Waller, tight end 32. Theo Johnson, tight end 38. Daniel Bellinger, tight end 42. 3 tight ends being listed. They can all be somewhat relevant, especially since Darren Waller is contemplating retirement. We'll see what happens there. He lost Kelsey Plum, and now he may lose his NFL career. Tough year for Mr. Darren Waller. He lost Kelsey Plum. Come on now. I mean, come on. Ryan, I've never heard of this man until I read his name 5 seconds ago. So I want you to sell the world and tell me where this fucker went to college, because I have no idea.
Started off in Iowa, went to Purdue.
That doesn't help.
Tell him what position he played in college, Ryan.
Was he a wide receiver for most of his college?
Okay, fantastic. So I'm both feet out of the boat, ready to drown like Jack on the Titanic. Sell me on Tyrone Tracy.
There's not a lot of room on that board. I knew
Antonio Gibson. Okay, you know what? No. Let's hear him out, guys. Let's hear him out. Let him cook. I mean,
Antonio Gibson was a college wide receiver, not a ton of college production. I actually think Tyrone Tracy might have more college production than Antonio Gibson had. But this is what you're moving into here with a team that does not mind throwing the ball to the running back. Devin Singletary has never been great at anything. Not to mention, Devin Singletary doesn't necessarily have the skill set to lock this job down. Why wouldn't they start finding out what they have in these picks towards the end of the draft? With Tracy, it's the receiving profile on a team with no receivers and maybe questions at tight end, though I do love Theo Johnson. There's correlation between tight end targets and RB targets. If they're not going to throw the tight end a lot, that could find its way there. It's a question of how good he's going to need to develop as a blocker. But then again, do they really want to protect Daniel Jones? Maybe they want to get him killed and you throw Tyrone Tracy out there. But what I liked about when I saw him, 8 rushing touchdowns as a senior in college, 5 receiving touchdowns throughout his career to go along with 1,200 receiving yards because, again, he was a receiver, averaged over 10 yards a catch, averaged over 7 yards a catch when he was playing the running back position. There's interesting athletic profile with Tyrone Tracy on a team that there's opportunity, and that's what you look for.
He was a wide receiver, and he had 5 receiving touchdowns.
Well,
early on in his career. He did not have any when he switched to running back.
On Iowa, which is impressive in itself.
Yeah.
So
it's Iowa.
So it's Iowa. Now, the 6-year senior is a red flag.
I'm not saying invest your entire fucking dynasty
no,
budget.
He's going undrafted. So we're talking
this is my 7th round pick in redraft. I don't know. I'm sold here.
No,
I'm ready.
I'm
ready. I'm back on the door. I'm ready to survive.
This is your week 3 waiver.
It's like that. It's funny. It's like that. The Arrested Development meme where he's like, we could go after the wide receiver that was converted to running back. And she's like, well, did it work for those people? No, it never does. But it might for us.
It might work for
us.
But it could.
Remember all the times that they said, Tony Pollard just going to play slot. So-and-so just going to play slot.
Yeah.
Like, it just never happens. But maybe.
Yeah, I don't expect him.
Tracy.
Again, I don't expect him to play wide receiver. I'm just saying Devin Singletary is not the largest mountain to climb to be a starting running back in the NFL.
Well, he's 5'9". It's not very tall at all, right?
Is he only 5'9"? I have 5'11" on College Reference.
No, we're talking about.
I thought he was 5'9". I thought he was even shorter than that.
I have Tyrone Tracy.
No, I'm talking about Singletary.
Tracy's bigger.
Yeah.
Tracy's like 6'1".
Well, he's 5'11". 5'11", 201 is what it says on what it says on College Reference. That College Reference can also be very wrong sometimes, but I just wanted to pull up his stats. So he's built like a slot receiver, which is perfect because that's all the New York Giants employ. And for some reason, it has seemed to not work out for Daniel Jones, Coop. Now, he's quarterback 31. I want to say you highlighted him to tell us why he's an okay pick at quarterback 31.
No,
but my heart of hearts is telling me he should be lower than quarterback 31.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, I've never been a big Daniel Jones guy. In fact, during the Evan Ingram versus Daniel Jones wars that were valiantly fought by me and Joshua Cho and a handful of people against the Giants Nation, I did lose quite a few Giants followers. So I have no problem bashing Daniel Jones because I don't have any Giants fans that follow me. This guy, his rookie year, he had 24 touchdown passes. Since then, he's had what? His best year
24 touchdown passes.
24, 15.
He hasn't topped 15 touchdown passes.
Last year, people forget that he got hurt last year, but he played in 6 games. And in 5 of those games, he didn't throw any touchdown passes. None. One game, he had 2 touchdown passes. He did win 5 games without throwing a touchdown pass last year. I think that this team did exactly the right thing. You can't get out from the contract right now. So what you do is you bring in a replacement level player to see if Daniel Jones is any good. If he gets beat out by the replacement level guy, or it's even an even competition. If it's an even competition, you get rid of both of them. But I think Drew Lock is just a better quarterback than Daniel Jones. Straight up, flat out. And Daniel Jones is coming out hurt. Drew Lock might – I want to say that Daniel Jones will be the first quarterback benched. Excuse me. But Drew Lock might just take the job and never give it back, in which case Daniel Jones never gets benched.
So I want to play our first Would You Rather because I'm looking at this ADP and it's fucking hilarious. There's 2 projected starters that are going after Daniel Jones. Bo Nix at 33, Gardner Minshew at 34. If you want to count Aiden O'Connell, he's 38. There's 2 guys not like that projected starters that are going after him. I just want to play a little Would You Rather. That's all. I just want to play a little bit. Okay? Now, this is insane. I'm going to move around a little bit, but I'm going to go right to 32. And I'm going to start with Ryan, go to Coop, and then to Josh. Would you rather Daniel Jones or Michael Penix Jr., who is the quarterback 32, Ryan?
Daniel Jones.
Coop.
I'm not drafting Penix, no.
Okay,
Yeah.
Josh.
Jones. I'm not drafting Penix.
Okay, so we found our
Not in
floor.
redraft. Yeah, not.
We
not
have
in
found
redraft.
our floor.
In
No,
Dynasty,
I think the
think
issue is that you're dealing with the dynasty drafters pushing Penix up right now, where he should not even be mentioned in redraft.
Sure, that's fair. Let's go Bo Nix at quarterback 33 or Daniel Jones. Ryan.
Bo Nix.
Coop.
I'm taking Bo Nix.
Josh.
Bo Nix.
Not even a question. I'm going to skip Gardner Minshew because I also think that one's a no-brainer. How about Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones? Ryan.
Darnold.
Coop.
Darnold.
Josh.
Yeah, Darnold, just because of the supporting cast. I think they probably play the same amount of games, though.
Yeah. Which is none.
Yes. Quarterback 36. Sam Howell or Daniel Jones? Ryan.
Oh.
The fact it's even a debate.
This is they're the same player to me right now, except Howell's younger, so I guess he has a better chance to take the job instead of lose the job.
Coop.
I'll take Daniel Jones. But it's just the thing is with Daniel Jones is that the one thing he could do is run a little bit, but now he's coming off a very serious knee injury.
Yes. Josh.
I think right now it's Daniel Jones' job to lose, whereas it's Sam Howell's job to win.
Mm-hmm.
So give me Jones for right now.
Okay, I have two more. Zach Wilson or Daniel Jones? Ryan.
I don't think Wilson plays, honestly, so Daniel Jones.
I can't take
Coop.
Zach Wilson. No, I'm not drafting Zach Wilson.
Josh.
Jones.
Okay, we found the shittier of the two trash bags. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And we'll end it on quarterback 39. This is not 8 spots behind Daniel Jones. Jacoby Brissett or Daniel Jones? Ryan.
I think Brissett starts. Jacoby Brissett.
Coop.
In redraft, I'll take Brissett, but in any sort of best ball, I think I got to take.
That's a very interesting point.
Because if I can't drop the guy to waivers, I gotta just go with Daniel.
Sure.
Yeah, I have to be able to. Yeah, my caveat is I have to be able to drop Daniel Jones no matter where
I have to be able to.
him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, in Brissett, it's like you can start him potentially for a game or two, but I don't know. I feel like Drake May takes over a bunch.
Josh.
I still would go Brissett. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if he ends up starting 15 games this year.
Patriots undefeated with $10.
Obviously,
$10
$10 to win $1 million. Now, the real interesting one is Joe Flacco at quarterback 40 if Anthony Richardson gets hurt. I'm just saying, there's a lot of quarterbacks going after
I feel
Daniel
like
Jones.
Cleveland caught lightning in a bottle last year. I just don't see that shit happening again.
Hey, don't you talk shit about Joe Flacco.
Can he comeback player of the year again if he starts again?
Could you imagine? That'd be awesome.
I was thinking that with Justin Herbert. He missed 5. How many games do you have to miss to? Apparently, you
He
don't have to
should
miss
not
any
get comeback player of the year. Wrong. I
broken
no.
finger.
Oh.
He came rehabbing his. Did some montage of him rehabbing his finger.
If he gets comeback player of the year, that's like NBA players getting rookie of the year in their second year in the league. Ben Simmons, Chet Holmgren, like that shouldn't be fucking allowed. You spent 1 year in the NBA.
Didn't Artemi Panarin come over and win the hockey?
Yes.
He was like
Dumb.
He was like 31-year-old Russian dude.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you played 100 games in Russia? Yeah, come over here, you win rookie of the year. So
Rookie.
stupid.
Yeah.
Last guy we're going to talk about. Wan'Dale Robinson. Josh, you liked him coming out, right? You were
I liked him a little, yeah. I mean, he's an interesting guy. Plays very close to the line of scrimmage. Generates a lot of his yards after the catch. He averaged 6.4 yards after the catch per reception in college. 5 yak per reception through 2 seasons with the Giants. The thing that I like is that Brian Daboll's a very good schemer. Like, he will scheme plays to get his people open, and he does that with Wan'Dale. Wan'Dale, even coming off of the torn ACL from his rookie year, he led this team in targets per game last year amongst the wide receiver core. Let me rephrase that because that was still Darren Waller. But yes, Malik Neighbors is going to come in. He's going to dominate the target share. I just think that wide receiver 18 is just way too rich of a price for somebody that has a bottom 3 offensive line in the NFL, and your quarterback's going to be throwing from his ass on the ground. Yes. So I would much rather take the safer bet at ADP, which is the guy that can get it closer to the line of scrimmage and gain the yards however he needs to. You don't love the 8.8 yards per reception from last year. But again, I think this offense should be a little bit better because Neighbors brings more of a dynamic look to this offense because of what he can do deep down the field.
So you're playing Robinson's the better value, but I mean by far at that point. Yeah. And with Neighbors being 18, I want to do it one more time. We're not going to go around the room. I'm just going to say names, and if you disagree, just speak up. Would you take this guy over Neighbors? And I'm doing every guy below him on this list. So he's currently wide receiver 18. I'm going to go all the way to probably the early 30s because I really think, like, even then, he's still not, like, you're still not even considering it. Mike Evans.
Oh, yeah.
Jalen Waddle.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Pittman. DK Metcalf.
Yep.
Devonta Smith.
Keep going.
Cooper Kupp.
Keep going.
Tank Dell, the only thing you could say is maybe because of the injury. That's the only thing you could say.
Or the fullback. I might take
that might be the cutoff for me.
I might take Neighbors there.
But hold on.
But the thing is, I have Dell. Well, yeah, keep going because I have other guys.
Keenan Allen.
I would take Keenan Allen.
T. Higgins, obviously, that's contract dependent. Roma Dunze. I'm going to skip Rashee Rice.
I would take Higgins and Ayuk because I think that if a team's trading for him, it's to make him a focal point to pay him. So
sure.
The situation for Higgins, I think, can only go lateral and could possibly even go up.
Sure. I'm going to skip Rashee Rice, obviously, with the legal issues. Zay Flowers.
Yes, Flowers.
George Pickens.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper.
I like
Christian Kirk. Jaden Reed. Hollywood. Terry McLaurin. Calvin Ridley. Brian Thomas, Jordan Addison. We're really taking Malik Neighbors 21 spots ahead of Jordan Addison?
I might take Neighbors.
I have Neighbors over Addison in my rank.
I was going to say, I think
21 spots, though?
Yeah, not by that. No,
that's insane.
They're two apart. Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah. But even guys like, how about Jackson Smith and Jigba?
I like JSN over JSN.
Yeah, he's 43 right now. Neighbors is up so high.
I think what happened was there's carryover from pre-draft, from the pre-NFL draft.
Yeah.
So what's happening in best ball? What's happening in best ball? And I have some Neighbors from this standpoint where we didn't know where these guys were all going to go.
Mm-hmm.
So Marvin Harrison Jr. was going so high that a lot of us, myself included, were saying, "Oh well, I'll just take Neighbors because we don't know who's going to be better and we don't know where they're going to end up." But now that he's ended up with the Giants, we really got to turn around. We got to turn around and.
Yeah, I think that ADP is going to come way down over the next couple.
I think it's going to drop too, but even the Marvin Harrison Jr. ADP feels okay. He's around AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson are the two ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr.
No, but the issue is to Coop's point, you coming into the draft for all the people coping that they weren't going to get Harrison, you had the people who were like, well, Neighbors is as good as Harrison.
Neighbors, yeah.
But there's a literal large difference between the landing spots that needs to be factored in specifically for redraft. I don't hate Neighbors for Dynasty because Jones is gone next year.
Of course.
But for redraft, Neighbors is in my 30s and Marvin Harrison's like a top 12 wide receiver.
And even at their over-under for yardage, like, Marvin Harrison Jr. is at like 1,000 and Neighbors at like 800 something. Like, they're telling us that they shouldn't be drafted that close together anymore.
That's a really good point.
There's a different way to lay into that,
And we go right into Malik Neighbors over under for receiving yards. And Ryan, you like the over there at 840 essentially.
I mean, he's a big play wide receiver, and he is easily the best wide receiver on his entire team. If he plays 16 games, he's going to cross this number quite easily. I haven't projected it just under 1,000, taking the lion's share of the team's targets. This is a team that is going to need to still throw the football. They're not very good. And I just see Neighbors as their heads and tails best receiver. That's not a big number to cost.
That's him.
To that point, last year, even with injuries, there were 27 wide receivers that had 1,000 yards. So you can still bet the over on that and say to yourself, he's not wide receiver 18.
100%. Great.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Because he could still hit the over on that and have 900 yards, right? 27 wide receivers had 1,000 yards last year. So, like, he could easily fall somewhere in that mix where he doesn't have 1,000 yards and he still hits the over on 840.
33 wide receivers hit this number.
Right. Yeah.
And that's him averaging 60 yards a game, a little more. So it's crazy. Coop, you have the Giants under 6.5 wins. Feels easy. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I only put that because I couldn't find any way to bet them to have 0.
I love that. I love that.
I went through the schedule and I didn't really see a whole lot.
Yeah, why isn't last winless team in?
I feel like we need to make our own little bet here. What's the over/under on how many losses before Brian Daboll gets fired?
Yeah, I think he should get.
If they lose the first 5, he's gone.
How many losses before the Chargers lose their first game?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the very first game of the season is the most winnable game for the Giants. It's Minnesota, right? And they have a rookie quarterback potentially. After that, I mean, they really got to win. Like, they got to win both games against Washington. How many wins? Like, let's say, stop me if it's a game that is even a coin flip, right? So Minnesota, they could win. Washington, we'll say that's a coin flip. So that's 2.
I think both games, yeah.
Cleveland, Dallas,
Nope.
Seattle, the Bengals, the Eagles, at Pittsburgh.
If it's in Pittsburgh, no.
Okay, Washington, we give them that one. Carolina, they got to win that one. That's in Germany.
That's a wash. Then you have no fucking clue. Yeah. That's a wash.
Can't lose on your bye week. Tampa Bay was playoff team last year. Dallas,
nope.
New Orleans.
Nope.
It depends on what Derek Carr shows up.
That's what I mean. Then they get Baltimore. I think we'll give that one to Baltimore. Atlanta. Atlanta's possible, but it's Kirk Cousins' Atlanta. And then they get the Colts, and they finish with the Eagles. So there's a ton of games there.
If you give them all the coin flips, it's 4 wins. If you give them all the coin flips, it's 4 wins. And they're seeing the shittiest division in the NFC this year, and we didn't even give them 1 win, which is the NFC South. We didn't give them 1 win in the shittiest division in all of football.
It'd be nice for them if they didn't have to go to Germany for that game.
I would agree. If that was in the States, I would probably give it to them.
It just
but that
makes
Germany
it such,
game's a wash.
It just makes it such a, it's a Plinko machine.
Do we think the Giants team is better than last year's team?
No.
They won 6 games last year.
Their defense.
How? Yeah.
That's insane. That's
insane.
I
don't know. I'm looking at there's you can bet for them to be the team with that stays undefeated for the longest. That is
I wouldn't take that bet.
That stays defeated for the longest, actually.
Oh, defeated. I'd take that bet.
Oh, that's a bet?
I think you can do it. Hold on.
I'd take it. I don't know what it is, but I'd take the odds. It's got to be minus 300.
It can't be negative.
Could you imagine? That you're that bad? You're minus 300 to be the last winless team. That would suck. Well, Coop's finding it. Josh, you have Malik Neighbors under 5.5 receiving touchdowns. Ryan brought up his big playability. Finding the end zone might just be a tough ask for this man, unless he finds 6 breakaway 70-yard deep ball touchdowns. I don't think this man's going to be finding the end zone too often.
Yeah, I have him projected at 5, and I think even that's generous. No Giants receiver has topped 6 receiving touchdowns since 2019 when they had 2, Darius Slayton and Golden Tate.
And that was before any of Daniel Jones, right?
No, that was the year that was Daniel Jones.
That was rookie Daniel Jones. Okay.
Yeah.
That was rookie Daniel Jones when he had 24 touchdown passes.
Okay.
They have not, as a team, they have not topped 20 passing touchdowns since.
Okay, so they're actually not even the best odds. Patriots at plus 600 to go winless for the longest is the best. You can take them at plus 1,200. Giants to be the team with the winless team for the longest.
Is that on FanDuel?
That's on DraftKings. I kind of like that.
Okay. I'd take that. I take plus 1,200. Sure, why not?
Sure,
why not? Before I kick it over to Josh Coop, thanks, man. It was a little bit of a longer show. We had a great time though. And one time, where can everybody find you and your work?
Yeah, right here on the screen there at Coop A Fiasco. I tweet out everything I do, like the show, all that. So honestly, that's the way to do it. And if you want to support me and you want to see all my rankings for this specific topic, Best Ball Drafts Now, we have a Best Ball guide out. FantasyAlarm.com/bestball. You get the Best Ball cheat sheet. It's got all my rankings with tiers. Got all the players I like. It's kind of cool. You can go grab that. Supports us and it gives you all those rankings. So check that out. FantasyAlarm.com/bestball.
Over to Josh.
Love it. All right, cool. We're in a look inside season. This is team preview time. We've got articles dropping on the website 3 times a week. To this week so far, we've had Trey McBride from the Cardinals and J.K. Dobbins today from the Chargers. We've got another one dropping on Friday. And then, of course, all the shows that we have here on our YouTube channel. So if you have not yet, hit that like, hit that subscribe. We just crossed 1,000 subscribers. We'd very much love to try to make our way to 1,500, maybe even 2,000 by the start of the season. It's very possible. We can't do that without you. So what we're trying to do is give you guys as many shows as possible that to tune in and enjoy. We've got Ryan's Mock It Like It's Hot with him in Austin on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Dynasty After Party Sundays at 11 a.m. with Michael Sicoli and Joel Worth. Of course, Mocking with the Stars. That's Gator J and Chris Battistell. Mondays at 10 p.m. Masterclass, our best ball show with Gator J and Stacey Perez. We also have a Golf DFS show. That's Who's Your Caddy with Kelly and Adam on Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Of course, no pun intended. Here every Wednesday. Next week, we will be covering the Titans, Falcons, Bears with Eric Moody from ESPN. And next Thursday, we are debuting a brand new Women of Fantasy Football show featuring Wendy Early and Julia Packworth. Mock Girl Summer. Come and mock draft with the girls. It's going to be a lot of fun. 10 p.m. Eastern every Thursday night. We'll have different guests. We've got Kelly Singh confirmed for week 1. And Coop, you may know your boss, Howard Bender, coming on for the second week to do the Battle of the Sexes mock draft. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So be sure to tune in. You can subscribe to Club Fantasy, youtube.com/Club Fantasy FFL. And of course, youtube.com/@women_FF as well. Show some love to the ladies over on their YouTube channel as well.
Dog. Wow. Look at that man. Can't do an intro, but he can do a hell of an outro.
Mock Girl Summer, dude. Mock Girl. You have Howard on Mock Girl Summer?
Yep.
Yeah. What a name. I love that.
There's one thing, Josh.
I want to give a shout out. Consult Fantasy was the one that came up with it when we did our Twitter poll, just to kind of get some suggestions for the name of the mock draft show. So we passed that around and everybody seemed to love it. So that's what we went with.
Awesome.
Beautiful. For Josh, Coop, Ryan, myself, you can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. Always remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football. We will see you next week.